Good day, everybody. Today, I'm super excited to host an amazing event with Orde Financial team, and they're gonna share just amazing story of how they transform their Salesforce developer experience with GitHub and sfops. Uh, this is gonna be awesome. Just relax and let's get ready, guys. Please. Whenever you're ready, please introduce yourself.
Cool. Thank you, Ruslan, and yeah, welcome everyone. Honored to be able to share our story here. Hopefully, it's interesting for you all. I'm sharing my screen now. Just give me a quick note if you can see it. Yeah, cool. So yeah, my name is Johan. I'm head of technology and architecture here at Orde Financial. I've worked in a variety of technologies in my career: SAP, Oracle, some custom built stuff. And since about 2014, I've been active in the Salesforce space. I'm originally from Belgium, moved to Australia 8 years ago. I love snowboarding, music, and meditation. And yeah, Arjun, over to you.
Hey guys. Thanks, Ruslan. Thanks, Johan. Myself, Arjun. I'm Salesforce technology lead at Orde Financial. Previously worked in Salesforce space since 2014. Yep. Currently enjoying the world of Salesforce. I'm a good cricket player. If you need a fast bowler, reach out to me. Weekends mostly cricket. I love trekking and exploring new places. So yeah, just like Salesforce. Over to you, Rowan.
Thanks, Arjun. Hi, everyone. My name is Roel Ventura, but you can call me Roy. So I'm from the Philippines and started as a Salesforce developer since 2016. So after 7 years, yeah, here I am working as senior Salesforce developer here at Orde Financial. Fun fact about me, well, I do love traveling, and actually, it's my first day visiting Melbourne. So, yep.
Well, welcome, Roy. He's actually in a hotel just behind the corner here, so looking up to catching up later.
Yeah.
So we got a little agenda here for you today. We'll first give an introduction about Orde Financial, who we are, where do we come from, what does Salesforce look like at Orde, and what did it look like 6 months ago when we started this journey that we'll take you through as well. And then I think this is probably the most exciting bit of the presentation is what does it look like today, and we'll give you a demo as well of what we've built in GitHub and what it looks like, what the developer experience is. And then we'll end with what we learned along the journey and what's next for us. And then, yeah, if there's some time as well at the end, we'll go through some questions. Otherwise, we'll try to get back to you offline. And so yeah, let's get started. Orde Financial, Orde Financial was founded in 2019 and launched in 2020. We're a specialist mortgage lender committed to delivering the best broker experience. And one of our pillars is that we do that in a digitally enabled way. So what does that mean for technology is that we internally are a key enabler for all our people, like our business BDMs, business development managers, our credit analysts, settlement team, and so on, to provide the best broker experience for our customer service team to support our customers, and also our customers directly through a customer portal. Orde has been growing really quickly, which means that we're not quite a startup anymore since a few months. The focus has now shifted to scaling, and which means things are a bit different now. From a business perspective, it's all about looking for more efficiencies, doing things more efficient, making sure that we continue the growth or grow even faster without adding an equivalent amount of people to the organization. And it also means a lot more reliance on technology. We get a lot more requests to improve things, make things, automate things, make things more efficient. So also from a technology perspective, we need to scale. We need to be more efficient from a cost perspective, deliver better quality, deliver more. So that's currently where we are at. It's about scaling. Salesforce at Orde. So this is our technology landscape at Orde. It's heavily centered around Salesforce. As you can see, we have a Cloud Landing in the middle. Cloud Landing is a managed package built on Salesforce. Essentially, it's a bank in a box. It allows us to originate new loans through applications. It allows us as well to service loans through Cloud Landing Loan and do collections when customers go in areas and manage the processes around that. We also use some Salesforce products. We've started using Sales Cloud since a few months now. Experience Cloud, that's where our My Orde portal, our customer portal, runs on. Account engagement for communication to customers, and CRM analytics for some advanced dashboarding and so on. We have very basic integration points. We have Equifax for some credit reports, ABN for customer or company lookups, and Google for address lookups. NextGen is a channel through which we receive applications for mortgages, and that's pretty much it. So everybody who's worked in the financial services space will probably love this, because integrating a CRM system with a core banking system is a pain, and we don't have to worry about that. So that's good. I think the fact that we started as a scale-up or as a startup better also brings some challenges from a technology perspective, and this architecture as well. So maybe first from an architectural perspective, it looks like a monolith, and it is a monolith. So while it's great to set things up and to go quickly from the start, because you don't have to worry about integration, it also means that when you start scaling and scaling teams, building more teams, you don't have independent services that teams can just work on in an independent way. It's all in the same, as where we were 6 months ago, the same version control, the same code base, the same system, the same database. So it's hard to scale from a team's perspective. And then secondly, we started as a startup, as mentioned earlier, which meant that at the start, the focus was on getting something into market, do things quick and cheap. It didn't have to be pretty, just get it out there, generate revenue. That was the key focus in the first phase of Orde, which meant that quality and maintainability was less of a priority, which left us with a few challenges after a few years, which Arjun will now talk to.
Thanks, Johan. So on the next slide, so as Johan introduced, so we were a startup a few months back, in fact a year back. The idea was to prove a point, to prove that the product works in the market. So we wanted to go as fast as possible into the market with as minimal spending as possible. So which is why you can see typically it was just developers on sandboxes working and deploying capability to prod. And we had one intermediate staging environment where there was testing. And as the developers grew, number of sandboxes grew. As the capability grew, the testing became complicated. So in the beginning, it was very manual. So we used whatever is available out of the box to get the capability into testing and prod. So essentially, what is out of the box? It's package XMLs and chain sets. So you can naturally think of what is the developer behavior. So developers are manually choosing what to deploy in terms of a package XML or in terms of a chain set. And yes, it's a manual activity, and all the validations are triggered manually. So they are more developer triggered rather than automated or scheduled. And because every developer worked in their own sandboxes, it was org-based development, which meant we always had to keep our orgs sane for the sake of the development to be right. And trust me, like every other Salesforce practice, it often goes wrong. So so inherently in this manual deployments and manual triggers, there are challenges. So that's So the consequential challenges that come with this practice are obviously sandboxes being out of sync, deployments taking longer time. Usually it's 4 hours and all hands on deck. Whenever there is a deployment, everybody need to be put in and support, because it's a manual deployment. It's a manual list of objects. So there is a potential for failure. And sure enough, there are a lot of bugs on prod because of inconsistent deployments. And oftentimes we had to deploy multiple times to get it right. Because of the org-based development, there is a lot of spaghetti code. There is no real separation of concerns or modularization of features. One Apex class had multiple responsibilities leading to spaghetti code, which is difficult to read, difficult to maintain, difficult to hand over to another developer. And so it resulted in a lot of problems. And eventually, because of these bad practices or practices which were put in place to get to market very quick, there was a lot of tech debt, which led to longer test runs. There are 2 aspects of it. One, each test run was longer, and there was a repetitive test run because multiple developers deploy multiple times, and each time it is deployed, there is all tests that run. So these are the challenges we had 6 months ago, and we had to put up with it. But since we are now going towards a scale-up strategy instead of a startup strategy, we had to remediate these problems or have a DevOps model which can allow us to scale up and help us in the scale-up journey. And speaking of journey, Johan will take you through how we did the transformation, and then later I'll take you through what are we today.
Yep, cool, thank you. So yeah, there's a few things that we had to do at the start of our journey. We needed some tools that we didn't have in-house yet. So one of the things that we needed to do was, we wanted a modular approach, kind of bring that kind of microservices concepts, like having independent services that teams can work on into our architecture. So that's why we landed on the X@Scale, now Flxbl. And we didn't have a good version control system either. So we decided to go with GitHub, mainly because it works with Flxbl and it's widely available in the market in terms of skills. No other reasons, really. And then for a record-based configuration, we went with SFDMU, and mainly also because the skills were available in the developers team. So that was easy to get started with. From a people perspective, we were quite small organization. When I joined Orde, I was probably one of the more technical people, and I knew nothing about DevOps. So we needed some skills, and at the start, you need a full-time dedicated person to get it going. After a while, you don't need a full-time person either, or us at least. So we relied on our DevOps partner Firo to kind of help us with that, to get it set up and to maintain it as well. Maybe at a later stage in our journey, we'll get big enough to kind of have our own in-house DevOps practice, but that's how we're currently running. From a Sandbox perspective, or well, I guess Scratch org perspective, we looked at Scratch orgs at the start, and we were trying to do a deployment on a Scratch orgs. The amount of errors that came through, that was almost 4 digits. So we decided that's probably not a good idea. It would probably take us months, if not a year or so, to clean everything up and be able to deploy it on a Scratch org. So we decided to go with sandboxes. We created a pool of sandboxes that Arjun will talk about a little bit later. That allows us to provision environments for developers, and also to do our continuous integration. Then there was a lot of cleanup to do as well. Get everything into version control, understand how the managed package works, where all the configuration sits, and so on. some code cleanup that needed to be done as well, a few test trials or deployment trials that we did as well, just to make sure it's working and we have something that's deployable. And then a last thing that we really paid a lot of attention to is learning, or I guess teaching slash learning. There's quite a bit of upskilling that we needed to do for the developers. We set up weekly sessions that evolved from show and tell to more like Q&A sessions to understand what developers need, what are they struggling with, where are the knowledge gaps. And it's also through those Q&A sessions that we got a better feeling for what improvements do we need to do to our CI/CD pipelines, what automations can help the developers. And the second part of the learning or teaching was also for the product owners and the broader business. Setting this up takes time, also takes time from the developers, has an impact on velocity. So there was a broader awareness within the company that we were doing this, and yeah, we were doing things behind the screens that was not necessarily visible, but generating some value. So in terms of milestones, so we started on the 3rd of April of this year. It was the start, first day of a DevOps engineer at Orde. We got our first domain created, actually a day before we did our first deployment with our newly created CI/CD pipelines in GitHub. Our first domain was a sales domain, as we just started using a Sales Cloud. So it was quite easy to create a domain and a package that was independent of the rest. So we did our first deployment on the 19th of May. It wasn't an easy one. It probably took 4 hours as well to get it done, with a lot of trial and error to get all the scripts right, and a few things that we've had forgotten, and this and that. But yeah, we got there. And the deployment in itself only took 20 to 30 minutes. But it was definitely an eventful night. Ever since, it's been going smoother and smoother. So yeah, it's definitely a big progress since. Other milestones, we got rid of our UAT environment on the 27th of September. So until the end of September, we did have a UAT environment that was, well, the environment where people would execute UAT tests, which I guess is the case in a lot of organizations, and I guess makes sense from some perspective, but we didn't feel it was the right thing for us. As we were looking at, well, do a shift left in terms of testing, and definitely in terms of environments, like how can we test earlier? How can we get even the product owners and the business to get a feel for new functionality? Do we really need to wait until that functionality gets deployed in a certain environment? Not really. We could even do that on a developer sandbox. Also, we didn't like to have that activity coupled to the environment. An environment is just an environment with data and a certain version of the code. An activity is something you should be able to do in every environment. And then also the fact that we had our trunk-based branching model made it really easy to to keep environments in sync. So yeah, rather than having a UAT environment, we said, well, we get rid of it. And today we just look at what testing requirements do we have. We need to do a functional test. What kind of data do we need? What kind of integrations do we need? Similarly for a UAT test, do we need production-like data? Well, then we do a UAT test on our full copy environment. Does not matter that much. It's just I don't know, a field label that got updated. You might as well just quickly show it in a dev sandbox before we push it to production. So yeah, we're quite flexible now, and makes things a lot easier. And then yeah, our last milestone was quite recent, actually. Last week we started using our first scratch org. We've evolved to well, I guess between the 19th of May and now, we started creating more and more domains, more and more packages, and getting much better at it, better understanding dependencies as well, and the order in which we need to deploy packages. So we're now ready to start using scratch orgs, which the developers started doing last week, which is yeah, quite a big milestone for us. So Arjun, where exactly are we at today?
Yeah, so so as So like how I explained before, so the problems that we had and the journey that Johan has taken you through. So it's quite apparent that we can't go on an org-based development model anymore. So obvious second choice is source-based development. So if I have to have a source, then I have to have a trunk. So there are various patterns in which you can have trunks, but what we are following in Orde is a mono trunk. So we have a main, and all the developers create their feature branches out of main. And along with the feature branch is their development org. So we needed development orgs or development sandboxes to be on demand, provisioned on demand. So for which we have issue ops. So these developer sandboxes are a replica of Golden Sandbox, which you can see around here. So this Golden Sandbox is replicated for each developer to continue their development. And once the development is done in the sandbox, they then check into the feature branch that was earlier created. And from the feature branch, there is a PR that goes into the main. So each PR, when it is created, there are a set of validations that are run. So these validations run on our sandbox pooling that we have. And these pooling is grouped based on the domains we have. Currently, we have 4 domains and 5 sandboxes allocated across the 4 domains. So these sandboxes are refreshed at a frequency of 3 hours. So we are on Enterprise Edition, which means we have 49 sandboxes roughly, and all our sandboxes are fully utilized at the moment. So yeah, once the PR is then merged into the main, then the changes are published to the test environments on the right. So our left is the development, right is a bit of a testing and release. So the test environments potentially are QA, IQA, and Golden Sandbox. Golden Sandbox being our source of truth from an org perspective, and QA and IQA being our primary test environments. IQA is our integrated environment. So every PR merge publishes the changes into these and creates a release candidate or a artifacts for release. And these artifacts can be released into our release environments, which is staging and production through issue ops. So you can see what we have avoided here. We have avoided manual cherry picking of changes. We have avoided developers developing on their own sandboxes, because now sandboxes have an expiry. They can be requested from issue ops and they get expired in 10 days. So developers every sprint as a ceremony, they request for new sandboxes. And at the end of the development, once the PR is made into main, the feature branch is then deleted, which means main is the only trunk that is maintained and only source of truth for any development. So this keeps all the sandboxes in sync, because once a PR is merged, it is published, the changes are published into the test environments, and at a given time, a release can be created from the issue ops into the release environments. So just reading through the dot points, version control, tick, single trunk helps us to maintain the source of truth. So orgs are not source of truth anymore. PR validations, for which we have CA sandbox pooling, publishing changes, which keeps all the environments in sync, unblock packages and domains. So as part of this, because developers are adopting, requesting feature branches or requesting sandboxes on the fly, we have a need to modularize our code so that every merge is meaningful and every PR is meaningful. So we adopted unlock packages and domains, and short-lived individual dev sandbox, which actually keeps the developers away from being married to one sandbox. And finally, issue ops to automate all these operations, where you can see a gear. So there is an automation behind it. So this is our branching strategy. On the next slide, yep, these are our test environments and release environments. And on the next slide, you can see, yep. So here you can basically see how our sandboxes are organized. I'll start from the left and move to the right. On the left is our developer sandboxes. And if you follow the yellow dots, they are a replica of golden sandbox. And so a golden sandbox is replicated for each developer based on issue ops, right? And once the development is done and the developer creates a PR, then there are a pool of sandboxes against which the changes are validated. So this pool is at the center, which we are calling as CA sandbox pool. It's not a scratch out pool, it's a sandbox pool. And this pool is also a replica of golden sandbox. And these sandboxes are expired after every 3 hours, kind of marked in the Git as inactive, and a fresh set of sandboxes are spun after every 3 hours to keep the changes relevant, or to keep the quality relevant of the sandbox. And on the right, at the bottom corner, you can see there is a QA, IQA, and golden sandbox, which are our test environments. And if you remember the branching diagram, so after every merge, the changes are synced into these sandboxes, which assist as testing sandboxes. And finally, right top corner, you can see the staging and prod, which are our release environments. So you can see that our sandboxes are more purpose-driven now. They are not source of truth. They are not long-living, and they are not monoliths or pillars anymore. The source of truth now is the repository. With this, what we have solved. So at the bottom, you can see the list of problems I mentioned earlier, and all these problems are solved because we are maintaining repository as our source of truth, and we have changed our practice using the issue ops. So no sandboxes out of sync, that is no longer a problem. Longer deployments, that is not relevant anymore because we are deploying in small packages. Bugs on prod is not relevant anymore because the deployments are not manually cherry picked. They are automated using issue ops and the repository as source of truth. Spaghetti code is not a problem. We are solving it gradually. It's not a problem anymore, because we have cleaned up and we have refactored and modularized our code. Long test runs, that is not a problem as well, because we are now following unlock packages where the test allocation is minimal, and we have CA sandboxes pool which continuously runs for validations, and so keeps the test runs at check. And with that, on the next slide, that's our pooling. Yeah, no problems. So what are these are the accolades of the adoption. So what did we adopt? We adopted version control, flexible in the form of TX at scale, and unlock packaging. And this gives us these advantages. I'll go from left to right. Sandboxes in sync. Yes, they are, because repository is keeping them in sync. Packaged metadata, separation of concerns, self-understood. Single trunk, which is our source of truth. Dev sandboxes on demand. This is achieved using issue ops. Faster and reliable deployments because of the modularization. Observability into ops. This is a big thing. Because we have adopted all the above, whatever I explained, we are able to observe at two types of metrics. One is behavioral metrics, other is quality metrics. And I will explain in a bit what they are. And we are able to version control our record-based config as well, and that by adopting SFTMU. And with all the automation on Git and issue ops, we are able to link to Jira and better collaborate with the teams. So there is a lot of increased collaboration with functional, non-functional, and technical teams as well, which actually leads to success of a lot of our initiatives as part of our growth. On that note, I'll hand over to Roy to give us a demo of what the developer day-to-day looks like.
Thanks, Arjun. So I'll just be sharing my screen. Yeah, so for the developer experience, I'll just be starting with our issue ops. So here in GitHub, like we have issue ops, wherein we have automated some of the operational tasks that we commonly used. So like if you want to deploy changes into staging or prod, we just have to create this issue. If we want to delete some of the components to a target or environment or across all environments, then we don't have to do it manually, but just to create a ticket for this one. So it's just really a matter of a click wherein it will automate things for us, which makes the developers' life easier and more efficient. One thing I will highlight for this one is requesting a new developer sandbox. So as you all know, like at the start of the sprint, all developers are creating sandbox. So for this issue, the idea of this one is that developers can create, delete dev orgs anytime and if they needed. So for this one, creating a new developer sandbox, we have to pick a source sandbox, which is the golden SB or production. How long should the sandbox be kept? The minimum is 1 day, the default value is 10 days, and then the maximum is 15 days. And then we'll just set the email of the user. So let's say we filled out the form, and then yeah, so like after 2 hours, we'll get a notification indicating that the sandbox is already created. But actually, we also I think it's normal for all automations that we encounter errors sometimes, right? So for example, for this developer sandbox, the good thing about this one is we can check the error on that one, and then so we have logs in here where developers can look at the code. If so, for this one, the we hit the dev org limit. So for the fix, we should just delete one of the existing and then just create another one. But if the error is like a back end issue, then that's the time we will coordinate with that with the DevOps engineer. So moving on to this one, I'm using the online editor right now, and then this is our repo or SF core, and as you can see, we have different directories. So I'll just focus on the source folder. So the source folder contains um, our unlocked packages and also source packages. So for the unpackaged, so this one contains all the components um, that are not yet categorized or moved into unlocked packages. So whenever there's a new feature that the developer is implementing, the goal is like to check the existing components here and check if we can move them into a new package. So over time, the goal is to make this unpackaged, like yeah, to decrease the components in unpackaged as we move the components to the unlocked packages. So so next would be like first for the building and stuff. So when if when we're working in a new user story, so what we usually do is we follow a branch naming convention. So it's the prefix would be either fit or fix, then the user story, and then we'll just push and commit the changes. And here is an example of a PR. So as you can see here, like feed B153, and then actually we're also using an extension conventional commit, which help us to fill in the necessary messages. So this is the description and then longer description. And then as you can see here, this PR is linked to the Jira ticket, which is B153. So when the PR is created, as Arjun mentioned, it will go through a validation. So we have a Jira lint and then the PR validate. So for the Jira lint, it will just check if it's following the branch naming convention, if it contains the prefix and the user story. And then for the PR validation, yeah, it's running 4 jobs. So one is the static analysis of Apex classes. So if there's an Apex classes involved, then it will analyze the code and will check for the PMD errors. It will analyze the impacted domains, and then it will validate the changed package. So for the validation, like how it works is we have a CI org. So this is the dev org sandbox pooling. So for the CI sandboxes, like there are allotted CI sandboxes for a specific domain. So for this one, we will be fetching a CI sandbox, and then if we get one available, then it will proceed to validating the changes in that CI org. And then once the validation is completed, we'll get this summary. So we have the CI org info. The good thing about this one is for example, we made some changes with 2 unlock packages, and we just want to make sure that the components are there. Then we can just log in to that CI org and validate the components. And also, like, we have this table wherein it will list all the packages that are validated. And then just the normal PR, like, will ask for an approval, and once it is approved, then we can merge it to main. So once it is merged to main, then we then build test publish job will automatically be triggered. So basically, it will just deploy the changes to our test environments, which is the QA, Golden SB, and IQA. And if we're going to go to the publish, it is generating the release definition. So for the release definition, basically it just contains the packages with newer changes or newer versions. And to show you like how the deployment looks like. So we're not really going to do the actual deployment. We'll just go you through with it. So for the here in scale.org Salesforce, we have our release candidates tab. And then this table shows the sprint release definition. So basically, it just displays like what are the pending changes that can be deployed to staging and production. So for example, for this one, we have this release definition. Like this is the changed artifact, and then these are the work items related to those changes. So the good thing about this one is we can orchestrate our releases for this one. So for example, we have for the recent one, like we have 139.312.149.153, but actually we just want to deploy 139.312.149 except 153. So with that one, we don't have to do anything or like revert some changes in our main. What we can do is just to go back to the previous release definition and check. So 139.312.149, and this one doesn't have the 153. So we can use this release definition and deploy this to staging and prod. So if I click on that one, so if I click on that one, we'll go here, and then yeah.
Sorry for the technical glitch. I think Roy was trying to explain you about the releases, how the releases are organized. So I think he was trying to show you how we can deploy from the dashboard that we have. And I hope you guys were able to follow that. We can choose which release definition we want to deploy. This kind of gives us a flexibility to be able to deploy something and exclude something else. That is really a powerful feature. Because as a business, business always wants a bit of flexibility in terms of what can be deployed, and if something is tested and not ready to be deployed, then it can be excluded as part of our deployment using the release definitions. So we initiate the release from here. On click of it, it kind of launches a issue. One of the issue ops that we have, which is really to release into our release environments, which is staging and prod. It basically creates on submit of this, it basically, I'll do that. Yep. On submit of the issue, it basically runs an automation and gathers all the release definition and creates tasks as part of workflow steps to deploy to staging and prod. And these, because these are release environments, they are behind an approval. So only when a allowed or nominated person goes and approves is when the change is deployed to these orgs. So you can see there is a release. Yeah. So yeah, this is the issue ops release that is generated, right? And I'll potentially show you some of the existing releases. So this is the release definition that I just created, or that I just initiated to release. So it is basically going through a list of tasks. So it is basically now the workflow is currently analyzing pre-release steps against staging and another pre-release steps against prod. So once these are complete, you will see additional tasks added, which are to release to actually release the definition into prod and staging. Obviously, we follow a sequence, so staging first and prod next. So yep, so that's our release cadence. Yeah, so few other tabs here at the top is, next one is the release tab, where any released definition is available for us to be able to attempt a patch, which we potentially call as a hotfix. So we can, these are again segregated by domain. We can hotfix a release per domain, whatever is released. Yeah, so this attempting a patch, it allocates a sandbox, creates a branch, allows us to do the hotfix. And from that hotfix branch, when the change is merged into main, then you again see a release candidate here, which we again release on top of the existing one. That's kind of patching an existing release, which actually is for hotfixes. So that kind of is a journey of a developer from the point of a change to the point of a release. And a couple of other interesting tabs here, which are really useful for us. One is package versions. So as part of the development, when a developer creates or upgrades a package for any change, you basically see what is the current version of the package against the test and release environments. So for example, so you can see there is this package which is on a specific version on the sandboxes, but prod is upgraded. So this is actually a managed package, as you can see here, which is actually installed on prod, but it has to be installed on the sandbox environments, which kind of shows you by a highlight here. Similarly, let's say in future, I as a developer, I decide to develop on this package, let's say, and you can see that this package current version is 1.1.0.2. So when I want to upgrade a patch, apply a bug fix on it, it will be 1.1.0.3. If it is a major release or a minor release, accordingly the version number will change. So we kind of follow a standard in terms of versioning. And you can also see the next one, which is a domain. So this tab kind of helps the developers to understand which domain has which packages and which packages are shared across the domains. So you can see that utilities is shared across all the domains that we have, and you can see that OddCL and OddSales has a common package called Core Objects Duplicate Management. Right. So these are various tabs which help the developers journey. And now let's go to reporting tabs. For example, test reports. So we have an automation that continuously runs test classes in the background on a set frequency, and all the execution reports are gathered here per Sandbox. So you can see that IQA, staging, prod, and QA. So for example, on QA, you can see that a couple of test classes have failed. And so when a developer sees this, they know that I have to go and fix this test class. Is the same test class failing on prod? Let's try to find out. Go to prod and sort it on staging status. So I can't see anything failing here. So yeah, and this is a confirmation. So the test class is working on prod, but potentially failing on QA. And so it needs a fixing, or it could potentially be a Sandbox specific failure. So that's a report. Similarly, we have a PMD report. We have package metrics. So package metrics kind of explains us how many times a particular package is modified in the last in a fixed timeline. So this kind of helps us to track what is the most busy package, and therefore pay attention to that and maybe modularize it further. So CI/CD performance, this is the most interesting tab of all, which kind of helps us identify the behavioral metrics as well as quality metrics. So for example, the PR turnaround time was 17 hours. This is because of the public holiday and the weekend short week. But usually this is how long a PR is open. This kind of explains if a developer has left a PR open for a long time, which is not a good practice. Ideally, you create a PR when you want to make a change. Average number of PRs in a day. So this kind of helps us identify how frequently developers are making changes, and number of files impacted per PR. This kind of explains the modularity. So similarly, on a quality metrics, you can see the successful deployment rate, and you can also see average time for prod deployment, 35 minutes. So this is in last 1 week. Let's see how it is in last 3 months. So for last 3 months, it's showing that around 31 minutes as well. And you can see that there were prod deployment success rate is around 79% in last 3 months. That is something we need to improve. So this dashboard is really powerful for us. And this is fed from Datadog. We use Datadog for all tracking all metrics. And this was possible because we maintained, we have the version control, right? So Datadog kind of helps us to see trends as well. So for example, I'm looking at a PR validation success ratio in last 3 months. So you can see the trend. So this kind of helps us to educate the developers on a regular basis to be able to develop faster and better with better quality. Yeah, on that note, Johan, I would give it over to you.
So yeah, as I said, Scratchworks continued the transition as we're getting better at making packages, better understanding the dependencies, and also we're hitting the limits of available Scratchworks in our org. So that's one thing. Continue to evolve our packages and creating them. We also foresee more teams getting added or keep splitting up our delivery teams into smaller teams as we grow. More automation, like more ClickOps, and yeah, also refactor our code. Quite some dependencies between Apex classes that we want to get rid of, make them more modular, and also make faster test classes that go with refactored Apex classes. In terms of learning, Roy, let's maybe start with you.
Yeah. Well, for the developers developer's perspective, like just cool things like we started from doing change sets until now that we are doing unlocked packages and have a solid CI/CD. So just continue on learning as we continue doing the modular deployment, and um just looking forward on how we're going to evolve as our team grows.
Arjun?
Yeah, I think from a solution design perspective, uh, modular design helps the DevOps process, helps things to be faster, keeps the value precise, and helps us deliver value faster. I think which is what any business would dream about. That has really helped us. As part of the cleanup, we have modularized, and so the learning is to keep modularizing and keep architecture as feature based as possible, rather than having big monoliths or having spaghetti codes. I think from a solution design perspective, modularity is the key thing that we learned.
Cool, thank you. And from my end, three things. First is the importance of upskilling and learning. I think there's quite a few things for developers to get their head around, especially around version control, the dependencies between packages, the order as well, and then also, well, while it's great to have the ClickUps, you click on a button and you get a new sandbox. You click on a button, and the release gets launched and approved, and then it just happens. The challenge is with that abstraction that sometimes one can forget what happens in the background, and then when things go wrong, what has gone wrong and why has it go wrong? Forget to look at the error logs. Abstraction is great, but we don't have to forget to know or understand what happens behind the scenes. I think the other one is probably around the trunk-based approach to branching. It was quite a bit of learning and understanding for everyone to kind of know what that means. It simplifies things in a lot of ways, but it also means it's first in, first out, or you can't just cherry pick features. Whatever has been pushed into the trunk will get picked up in the next deployment, and it all stacks into each other. And when you pick something up that it's a bit higher up, everything underneath that wasn't deployed that will be done as well. So that's big learning. From a journey perspective, get the foundation in first, and then start looking at modularization and refactoring and so on. I think just the fact that we were able to choose to go for deployments first and then worry about creating domains and packages just helped us a lot in getting this going. And the last one is the impact on the velocity of the team. There's a lot of learning, and we will make mistakes, everyone. So just that awareness that has to be created in the broader business, which was quite easy for Orde, given that we're quite small. It's just important to get support from everyone, from the whole business, on the investment that we make here for the future to be able to scale. Okay, so I think we arrived at 5 o'clock, so I'd like to thank everyone, and Arjun, Roy, for presenting together with me. Especially Roy, it was difficult with the audio, but I think you were doing a great job. Flxbl for organizing this, Ruslan for the intro, and for everyone connecting in or watching this at a later stage. So there's a couple of questions on LinkedIn. So I have to get back to them offline. And thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. It was amazing presentation, amazing turnaround for your workflow. Just very happy to see this. Good luck in your next steps, and for everybody who's watching, the recording will be available. You can ask the questions in LinkedIn event, and I'm sure Orde Financial guys can answer once they have some time. There are a couple of questions, guys, so please follow up, and once you have time. Thank you so much. It was amazing.
Thanks for time. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone.